Welcome everyone to an extremely special episode of the Imperial Chronicle. Through the power of the internet, we are joined today by Battle for Rokugan co-designer Molly Glover. So before Battle for Rokugan, what products were you involved with?
I worked on Android mainframe, Hand of the King, Elder Sign, Journey to Mordor, Star Wars X-Wing, Star Wars Destiny, Cosmic Encounter, Fallout, Star Wars Rebellion, Raw. I know there's more I'm missing. So I've actually been really lucky to work in pretty much all of our IPs. Worked on Runebound, I worked on some of the RPGs. It's been really cool to see both our licensed IPs and the stuff that we own ourselves and really dig into those.
And how did you end up on the Battle for Rokugan project?
One day they told me I was going to work on a new game with Tom Jolly, and we just sort of took it off from there. It was pretty cool.
Is it true the design was originally based on the Game of Thrones board game?
Actually, it never had anything to do with a Game of Thrones, the board game. I used the screens as a template because they were good screens and they seemed like they'd work. But I hadn't played a Game of Thrones, the board game, until Battle for Rokugan went to the printer. That was the first time I played it with some friends. Tom's original mechanic that we used didn't, as far as I knew, had anything to do with it. It was based in a totally different situation. So yeah, it just didn't have anything to do with the Game of Thrones, the board game at all. We were pretty surprised when we saw people online asserting that it had to be a reskin or a simplification. So yeah, nope.
It currently plays 2 to 5 players. Did you try it out with 7 players? What were the results?
We considered a lot of paths the game could take, but ultimately the balance was so good at 5 players that we didn't want to mess with that.
Battle for Rokugan is a very simple game in a small box with a low price point. Are these goals made for a designer, or do you have the freedom to influence them?
We always have some input, but in this case, the decisions, they're always made by the higher ups, usually following some discussion of budget. In this case, Andrew Navarro, the head of studio, came to me and said that he'd had the idea that he wanted to put it in the smaller box at the lower price point and was wondering if everything would fit. So I mocked up all the components and we put them in a box and it closed, and we were really excited because it seemed really weighty and great in there. So we went from there. It was a really smart decision on his point.
There's no time period specified for the setting and no reason given for the clans to be fighting. Do you see games of Battle for Rokugan taking place in the same universe as the role-playing game and the living card game?
No, it occurs in an alternate setting, a different timeline that's separate from the ones featured in the RPG and the LCG.
The political map of Rokugan has changed slightly, with the neutral territory being inserted between the crane and the crab. Does gameplay win over source material every time?
Yes, the source material is essential, but it's important to be flexible for the sake of the players and the best game possible. Both elements really need to be considered to make a really great game.
Were the neutral areas ever given names, even unofficial ones, during playtesting?
Yes, they have unofficial names, but they're not very creative, so please don't make fun of me. I called them the Islands and the Southern Coast. Pretty simple.
Unlike the living card game, there's no description of the clans' identities in the rulebook. Why is that, and what did you do to make the clans feel true to their nature?
We wanted the rulebook to be lean and straightforward without a lot of extraneous information. The hope was that people would be able to learn the game, and if they were new to the setting, it would intrigue them enough to go find out more about Rokugan on their own. And the people who were fans of Rokugan, who knew a lot about it, would appreciate the parts of it that were there present in the game. I spent days on the Rokugan online wiki and with Katrina Ostrander pouring over the old RPG books and just kind of talking to her because it's, one of her favorite worlds ever. And I got a lot about the clans and just the way they interact with each other and their history. And I wanted to make sure that even in a game with real simplified abilities and not a ton of, L5R injected throughout it, that it still felt like an L5R game.
Which clan do you think comes across as most faithful to their spirit in the game?
The Crane, I think. The Crane's ability really invokes their excellence as duelists, and I think that them getting that extra diplomacy token really just shows what Crane's all about.
And what was the hardest clan to capture?
Oh, Unicorn, for sure. It was really difficult to make them separate from anything else, and they're also magic users like Dragon. We had a tough time with Unicorn.
Which is your favorite clan and why? Is it hard to just pick one?
I always get Phoenix when I take online quizzes or when I, run down, people talk about the different, what are all the clans. But I think it's just, I love the magic and the mysticism and the political intrigue that Phoenix brings to the table. But I think much like, Hogwarts houses or whatever, I think a lot of people identify with more than one clan.
Another thing Legend of the Five Rings is known for is the art, yet Battle for Rokugan uses so little of it. Why is that?
It was just a part of the clean aesthetic and the minimalist approach that we and the graphic design team decided to take with the game.
Why was it so important for Battle for Rokugan to appear distinct from the other games in the Legend of the Five Rings brand?
Katrina and I spent a lot of time talking about how Battle for Rokugan was going to have this alternate timeline and how it was really important to make sure that it was distinct from the timeline of the RPG and LCG. It was really important to her, it was really important to me, and the aesthetic and the look of the game was part of that.
Before Battle for Rokugan, how much did you know about the L5R setting?
What I knew in broad strokes from when we acquired the IP. I just read a few articles and, knew a little bit about it, but I didn't know much at all.
After Battle for Rokugan, how much do you know about the L5R setting?
Just a bit. I feel like I know just enough to be dangerous. I really enjoyed myself when I played the RPG beginner game, and I had a really good time because of the knowledge that I have gained about Rokugan, but there's so much to learn, and I can't wait to read more fiction and really get into it more.
And what makes it so special?
Oh, what makes Rokugan special? I think the sweeping sense of something larger than yourself, the sense of family and obligation and, spirit that is so present. I think really that sort of, romanticism really sweeps people up in our modern world. It's just so different from how we live that it can feel almost like nostalgia for a time you've never known.
We really appreciate you joining us today, Molly, and we hope you'll stick around to tell us more about what it's like to be a game designer and to work for FFG.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate Arkham Chronicle, and you guys are great, so thank you for your patience and for supporting Battle for Rokugan. I hope you guys have a lot of fun playing it.
So please come back, everyone, for part 2 to pick up some industry insider tips from Molly Hooper, co-designer of Battle for Rokugan, here on the Imperial Chronicle.